Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first Outdoor Women United event in such a long time. It's so glorious to have everybody here with us today. If I could just take a moment, please, I'd like to invite Maureen Buchanan to the front. Hi, Maureen. I've made this tobacco offering, and we'd like to ask you to give our opening words and closing words for today's event. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh, jeez. Can I take my mask off while I speak or not really?
Yes, you may.
I can? Okay. Okay, great.
Feel free.
Oh. Bonjour. Oh, it sounds really good, eh? Do I sound even almost professional, huh? Almost. Bonjour, Nindenaway Maganaduk. Nina Sineque, Indigo, Maureen Indigenaka, Jaganashimang, Megaze and Dodem, Bouting and Donjaba, Nishnabekwe and Dow. Nindenaway Maganak, Shquina Kazjig, Nolan Guy Sayers, Migyud, God, Awad, Obajuan, Minawa, Gio, Nishnabek, Gitwin, Nishnabek, Ewede, Gitagan Zibing, Besha, Bouting. Nemama, Gijan Kaza, Mariba, Nishnabekwe, Awe, Gimijikwewis, Fanny Ba, Minawa, Henry Ba, Nindere, Gijan Kaza, Donald Ba. Gimijikwes, Annie Cumming, Minawa, Donald Buchanan. So, Miigwech, Bisandoyeg, thank you for listening. I'm using my language to start this process. It's really important to me that I use my language in a situation like this because it's so important that we hear the language. The language that you're hearing, that I'm attempting to speak as best I can, is Anishinaabe Moan, or the language of the Ojibwe people. I'm a second language learner. I started to learn my language at the age of about 58. Yeah. It's really important to hear the language because the language is not something that I can encounter every day in my life here easily. If I speak the language, it's with great intention, and that's the only way I'm going to hear the language. It's very, very, very intentional. And that is something to take note of at the beginning of this day, I believe. So I've introduced myself in a kind of a traditional way. So I'm centering my clan. My clan is Megaze, it's Eagle Clan. I center where I come from, where my people are coming from. I also center who my parents are, and and that my mother's Ojibwe, my dad is a white man. I'm centering all of that so that you know where I'm coming from. I also center all of that as part of opening a circle in a way so that my ancestors who are with me also are recognized and are also part of this process. In Giminigo Esema, Ganu Demo in Enogok, Anishinaabe Mong, Gaginawe, Gui Mana Dendamonak, Shkakamakwe, Minawa Gakina Gego. So I've been given Esema. Esema is one of the sacred medicines of many nations, but for the Anishinaabe, it's a sacred medicine. And Esema is our messenger medicine. We use it when we were trying to set like really good intentions. We want to really be communicating with what's going on around us, with all the spiritual beings around us as well. So Kim gave me this, and she gave me this, I believe, with the intention, asking me to do this. And I said to her, well, I can do my best. It's really important that I use the language in doing that. And she said, oh, that's good. No, you can do that. That's great. And sometimes people will think about it as a prayer. I don't think of it that way, really. Prayers they remind me a lot of a Christian traditions, and that's okay, but that's not exactly what for me is happening here. In doing this, I am trying to convey for all of us a deep honoring and respect of the web of relationships that create and sustain life. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not being forgiven for anything. I am honoring and respecting the web of relationships that create and sustain life. So like our ecological web that we are part of, we are not separate from it, we are part of it. And we have responsibilities to that ecological web that are human responsibilities that we must carry and carry as best that we can. So saying this kind of acknowledgement is part of that responsibility. It's like recognizing and honoring all those things that give us life. So I'm going to do that by way of a small little nemewance that was written by a speaker named Isidore Toulouse. He's an Ojibwe's Odawa speaker. He's from Manitoulin, and he's had a huge impact in the second language learner community, and I think in the language community, of his great efforts to help us pick up our language, even though there's not one thing in this place or this space that makes it easy to pick up your language. He does that work. This prayer, I use this prayer because, you know what, I know that there are people here in this audience who've worked hard to learn to speak this prayer and will recognize it. And as a second language learner, there is nothing better than when you're in a situation and you hear the language and you can recognize it and you can follow it a little bit. It feels really empowering. So, with that said, I'll start the nemewance, which is this thanking and honoring of creation. Miigwech gejemnado. Keen genegego gajitoyan. So the one like the creation, thank you so much. You've made everything. Miigwech skokamekwe. Gimi jung bemodsuin. Gimi jung mijum. Gimi jung nesewin. Gimi jung mittaguk. Gimi jung mishkikons. Gimi jung benojin. Gimi jung nibe. So thank you, Mother Earth, for giving us like life, bimodswins, like the good life. Thank you like for giving us trees and our breath to be able to breathe, the water, the children, the grasses, kinagego, everything. Miigwech nokamistibik Jesus, gibi wasiajan nidibikuk. Miigwech Grandma Moon, who gives us the light as the night comes. Miigwech Mishomas Jesus, gibi wasiajan ensigijiga every day. Mishomas Jesus, or the sun rises and gives us light every day, always shows up. Oh, miigwech. Sema, mbugadina. So I want to give this now I'm going to be referencing the directions. I'm going to be asking for help in that regard. So when I say Sema and Bugadana, I'm giving this to living beings. These are not inanimate or theoretical ideas. These are like beings that are with us right now. So, Sema and Bugadana. Daga, not emotional. So I'm asking now for all of us now. I've used the words that say all of us. So please, not emotional. Right in this little circle is Ojibwe. Right in this little circle is the names of the directions. And so I'm going to reference them. Jawanong. I'm going to say Wabanong this way. Jawanong, south. So we started with the east. Jawanong, Epingishmak, and Giwadenong, north. So all those directions. Not emotional. Help us. Jimshko Gabuyang, like to be strong. Jizong De Eong, to be, courageous. No gum today, right now. Miigwech Gejemnado. So it's like thanking the creation for those, and I'm asking that to be strong and to be courageous in a way so that we can hear what needs to be heard, see what needs to be seen, do what needs to be done. Sometimes making change is really tough. So I'm asking for help for all of us to be able to do that today in the ways in which the people have come here, like to hear new ideas, I think, or to hear about what's happening in the community. So with that said, thank you very much, Ms. Miigwech Bizendawyeg. Aho. I'm going to just go now.
Thank you, Maureen, for that opening intention. My name is Jessica Bain-Hogan, and I am one of the co-chairs of Women United. We'd like to acknowledge this traditional territory's longer existence and its significance for the Indigenous people who live and continue to live on Turtle Island. We are situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee land. There are many Métis and other non-status First people from many Indigenous nations present in our community today. This acknowledgement symbolizes the KFL&A United Way's first step of many along this path towards Indigenous reconciliation in a respectful manner. Welcome to today's Women United first in-person event since this pandemic started. We are delighted to be able to reconnect with all of you in this beautiful setting on this lovely day. For today's topic, we have the opportunity to learn more about the gaps and programs in the region supporting Indigenous communities. Education is empowering, and we have both the responsibility and privilege to embark on this journey of furthering our awareness of those around us and the world which we inhabit. So thank you for joining us. And now I would like to turn it over to Bhavna.
Thank you. Welcome. Am I too loud? No, I'm okay. It sounds weird. So my name is Bhavna. I've met most of you, but for those who haven't, I'm Bhavna. I work with the United Way of Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington, and it is truly a pleasure to have you here with us. This is our first in-person Women United event in 2 years. The last time we met together was November of 2019 in Linda Ann's home. I think Linda Ann is here today. And we really miss those occasions. But thank you to those of you who've stuck with us and attended by Zoom. The idea is really to provide more information to you. We've heard from you that you want to learn more about the issues in the community, and what better way to have this very special learning today than to be here at the Spirit Garden. Thank you, Maureen. Your words were very moving, and you talked about being courageous, and that is my intention today. This is courageous. I know our co-chairs, Jane and Jessica, and I were all petrified that we would make a mistake. So if we do something silly or don't do something we're supposed to, in advance, my apologies. So thank you for teaching us and being with us and learning, and we're going to hear from you some more. So today we thought we would talk about an issue that's really, really important to our communities. We need to pay more attention to programs that serve the Indigenous people in our communities. The United Way does a point-in-time count every year, and this year, 31% of people who are homeless identified as homeless. That's just not acceptable. We need to have more programs. We've already started. We have a street outreach worker that we're going to start right away, who will be Indigenous and who will serve people on the street. We're trying to make sure that every agency that serves the homeless will have someone who's Indigenous amongst them. So we're starting with baby steps. We've also started to find different ways to explore programs. Claire from our office has done a great job of pulling together, finding programs that serve Indigenous people, and we're just hoping to expand that list and make sure that we have more and more programs that are really culturally suitable for people. So thank you again for being here, for learning with us, for sharing. We will open it up for questions and answers afterwards. We're going to start with a drumming circle. So One Roof, as you all know, is very near and dear to the United Way's heart. We were part of it from the start, and we continue to support it. And with us today, we have Ray O'Byrne with his team from One Roof, the drumming circle. And in a few minutes, they're going to drum for us. We will then bring Maureen Buchanan back, who will talk about a program that we've just recently started supporting. And then we'll have Elizabeth Fry. We've got Catherine and Judy from Elizabeth Fry, who'll tell us a little bit about their outreach into some of the programs that they have been supporting all this time and into the future. But I would like to start firstly by thanking TD. They couldn't be here today, but TD has sponsored it. So Martha wanted me to make sure that I let you know that the food has all been sponsored by by TD. The United Way has not paid for it, so your donated dollars have not gone towards that. And thank Panchanter for taking the extra effort and putting it all together for you. So we hope you're enjoying the food. We hope you're enjoying the refreshment, and we will open it up for questions and answers afterwards. We've tried to make it safe, so I know Tim and Claire and I personally measured every single seat to make sure you're 6 feet apart, forward and sideways. As you can see, we're changing the mic, so every speaker gets a fresh, cleaned mic. If there's anything you think we should have thought of, please let us know, because this is, again, our first in-person formal event, and we're hoping to have more of these as the weather permits. But I will now, I think the drumming circle is ready, so I will invite them to come over. So Ray, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, they're here. Okay, I guess we'll start with introductions. I thought I was just a taxi driver. Hi, okay, so I see some of you that know how to sing, so I'm going to ask you to come up here and sing with us. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you feel it's not about being on display and it's not about, you know, being on showcasing, but it's about carrying on our songs and our traditions. Ray asked the youth to come and sing, so I made sure that they got here. Oh, hey! I've like seen everybody I know. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, because that's what adults always take the spot. We know how to talk, but this is their moment, and I drove them here, and they're going to sing whatever they feel like they want to sing, and we'll just, if you feel like joining us, please do so. Come on up and join us. Carolyn, I expect you to be up here. I know you want to sing. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sego Garizanta Yungets, Waskarewage, Niwagitarodon, Godega Nigitaro, Dano Jada Miracle Ne Johanza Negasana. Hi everybody, my name is Jada Miracle. I'm Bear Clan, and I am from Tynanega Mohawk Territory.
Sego.
You're not shy.
Sego sewa goego. Rakonigo raksani yungyats. Miracle de waksanazere. Ganyung gihaga ni maguhunjoda. Dahno wagehnyakto. Gandege nidwageno nekti gandarokwa negidero. So hi everyone. I'm Logan Miracle. I am of the Mohawk Nation, and I'm Turtle Clan from Tynanega Mohawk Territory, and yeah, we're here to sing some songs.
Yeah. Awesome. I guess I'll introduce myself. So Sego de Guanurados, de Wats Grevega Iska de Nuagaterodon, Danon Gondega Nigidero, Danon Laura Miracle ne Jahazakasana. So I sit with the Bear Clan. My Haudenosaunee name is Dearunia Yonderis. A few of you have seen me around in the past few years. I see some familiar faces, especially from my Queen's journey. I live in Tyndonega, so I just flew one of the youth here from there. I waited for her to get off the bus and come on, we gotta go. Hopefully they haven't started without us. And I just popped this on their shoulders. I think it was on the weekend, and I said, you know what, they want to hear some, yeah, literally today for her. And I said, they want to hear some youth voices, you know. I love it that they go, we take them over to all the different youth events, especially at One Roof, you know, with raised programming. And they're there every week, sometimes twice a week. And so it's my responsibility to make sure that they get here, us as adults, you know, because we got to think of some of the barriers that they have, and also to lift them up that they're learning language. Like Logan, I mean, his language growth just in the past year, and he did that on his own choosing. He went to some programming and then they like it, and then he just learns and learns more. And I mean, he's a brilliant speaker, and he's really taking that on, and really we have a lot to learn from them. So I'm going to stop talking and let them take over. They decide what they want to sing. I'm just following lead and driving them around. Yeah.
Let's do a drum song first.
Okay. You're drumming?
Yeah.
Come on up, Caroline. Here she comes. Maureen, I see you. Anyone else want to join us, feel free.
I didn't bring my drum. Do you have a rattle or?
You want to drum? Okay. Sure. Logan.
Do the Strong Woman one first? Yeah, you started. How's it go?
Yeah. So they're going to sing the Mohawk Water Song next. With the translation for the words is they're singing Yungwanarunkwa, means I to you, I love you. Onega, which is the water. All the Garunya Su'a, all the waters. And Gatne Garunyo, they're precious to us. Yeah. All of the waters are precious to us. So, and then the rest are going to be vocables. So that's what they'll be singing. So you understand that they're giving thanks to the water. And it's a perfect time because it's a full moon tonight. So give thanks to the water.
Yungwararunkwa onega, Yungwararunkwa onega, Gane garunyo, Gane ganoro, Gaino ya eya. Yungwararunkwa onega, Yungwararunkwa onega, Gane garunyo, Gane ganoro, Gaino ya eya. Yo ha yo ho we ah hey, yo ha yo ho we ah hey, Gane garunyo, Gane ganoro, Gaino ya hey ya. Yungwararunkwa onega, Yungwararunkwa onega, Gane garunyo, Gane ganoro, Gaino ya hey ya. Yo ha yo ho we ah hey, yo ha yo ho we ah hey, Gane garunyo, Gane ganoro, Gaino ya hey ya. Yo ho.
Which strong woman? Mohawk or Anishinaabe? Anishinaabe one? They know it, but they just. There you go. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also double for this side.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Just like the Muppet Show?
Yeah,
Okay, are we done now?
I guess so, yeah.
Are we? Okay. You remember the Muppet Show, that great big gold hook? Yeah.
The Shepherd's Crew.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah.
How we? Oh, cheers. Good job. Yeah, we'll go. Gorab Mila Mahagot. Chi Migwich. Yeah, how you doing? It's Misha Raymond McThomas over in. Tom Gobar One Roof. Tom County and it's Misha Erina. Tom Goni MacTair Ilan. I'm just interested because I'm just showing off because everyone else got to show off their language, so I'm going to show off that I have a bit of my language too. Yeah, I work at One Roof. My name's Ray. I work in the crime prevention program, and I'm one of the Indigenous case managers at One Roof. So we work with a lot of the young youth. United Way, we just like to say thanks to them. They have contributed a lot for us to have that lovely new building over there on Albert Street, and to the crime prevention program that we do there. So specifically, the crime prevention program is working with young people that are in conflict with the law, or they don't generally have to have a charge, but they have them characteristics that put them in a way of getting into trouble. And we have 2 Indigenous case managers because we're recognising that through I guess systemic reasons and colonial reasons and all them things that we hear about, that even though being in trouble with the police isn't necessarily an Indigenous thing, Indigenous people are generally they're high where in them numbers, like even though they're low in our population. So that's why we have 2 specific Indigenous case managers. So not only do we work with young people in our program, we do programming. We have an elder that comes, her name is Helena. She helped us start our programming. So every Thursday we do Indigenous programming, and young people like Logan and Jada come, and then we have, well, it's open to everyone. You don't necessarily have to self-identify, but Kingston being the way it is, and it's an urbanised area, and we have urbanised Indigenous youth, and we have them problems we were talking about. Some people were talking about residential schools and the 60s scoop and things like that. So these young people that we have come, and they tend to say oh, I think I'm Indigenous, my grandfather's Indigenous, my ma's Indigenous. So we well, you're Indigenous, they don't have, as an urban Indigenous youth, they probably don't have lucky enough to have the teachings and the learnings and the knowledge and the cultural know-how some of the Logan and Jada. So it's great when we have young people like Logan and Jada there, that they can share what they know, and then we have other knowledge keepers come in. So some of the things that we've done horned rattles. We started to make drums, hand drums. We had 22 hides, and we cleaned them off, and we started to treat them. But I don't know if you've heard of this thing called COVID, but it closed us down again. So we're waiting on to get back at that again. So we should have, I think, out of them 22 hides, we'll probably get, I say, easily 50 drums out of it. So we like to work with a lot of community partners. Maureen is one of them, through the Language Nest and the Indigenous Sovereignty Garden up there on Highway 15. And I see a few other people like Laura, Kuwait. They come every Wednesday, and they do not every other Wednesday. I apologise. And they come every other Wednesday, and they do a feast, and they have a drum circle. So then again,
we open that to the communities, not just to the young people. So the young people and their families can come and they can learn their songs, and they can have a bit of fun and eat a lot of fry bread. That's generally what I tend to do anyway. And then of a Thursday we have, I can't even, we've done so much in the last couple of months, I can't even think off the top of my head now. We've corn husk dolls, very good, Laura. Actually Jade, it was Logan who ran that for us. Logan and Journey, yeah. And then we had the Rattles. I can't even think of it now. But do you know what? Sometimes we just hang out on a Thursday, play video games, eat food, have a laugh, and that's nice too, And so we'd like to thank us again, United Way, for helping us run our stuff, and hopefully we onwards and upwards will get bigger and better, and get more young people to be like the two Ongwe young people over here, That's what we're aiming for, huh? Come on.
So I'd like you to join me in another round of applause for these amazing people. So thank you. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Jada. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. And thank you, Carol Ann, for stepping up. And thank you, Maureen, for joining as well. That was wonderful. The setting, the weather, that music, it was just beautiful. So thank you so much for the songs and the drumming. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Ray, for giving us an overview of what's happening at One Roof. I hope your wish comes true, and we have lots more programming, and it gets stronger and bigger, and you have more and more young people like Logan and Jada joining you, and that we give them back their languages. So speaking of language, we have Maureen Buchanan here with us from Kingston Indigenous Languages Nest. We first heard about this last year. We partnered with the city in making sure that we were granting 2 areas that we haven't often granted before. And I know I was just telling Maureen, when she started speaking about her program, I didn't want her to stop. It was just so fascinating listening to what she's doing, what the community's doing to help kids learn the language. So Maureen, if you wouldn't mind coming up, thank you.
Bonjour, ni no maya, minwa, here I am again. Okay, so we're gonna do some language. I just can't hardly bear it. Y'all gotta talk to me, okay? So we're gonna do a song. That's just all the way it is to it. We're gonna do call and response. You're gonna be speaking Ojibwe. You're gonna have an experience of what we would do in the language nest. Now you need to understand, we all need to understand, how silent the language has been on the land here. So it's not by accident that you encounter the language. I mean, it's quite a surprise to see the directions written in concrete here. That's like, oh my gosh. But generally speaking, it's not something the children or their families will hear accidentally. You're not going to wander into a space and hear the language. I'm not going to go and look in the library and see, oh, there's like a course I can take. You're not going to go sign up in Duolingo and find Anishinaabemowin. Not yet. Soon, but not yet. You're not going to find Gunya Geha card game happening here too easily. But we're going to change that. But I want you to have the experience of the language, okay? So we're going to do Anishinaabe and I'm going to get you to sing to me, okay? We're going to do call and response. If I can do this at 63 in front of a mic, in front of all of you, you certainly can. That's all there is to it. Okay, ready? Ani Bojo. Ani Bojo. Minogi Jagat. Minogi Jagat. Gimeno Ayana. Gimeno Ayana. Nimeno Aya. Okay, so Bojo, Ani Bojo is like it's a way of saying hello. Bojo is not bonjour. Okay, Bojo is referencing Bueno Bojo, one of our trickster guys who has been so many good stories come from there. But so we're referencing Bojo, Bueno Bojo, or Nana Bojo. So Bojo Ani is hello. Minogi Jagat is wow, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful day. Gimeno Ayana is a really easy, simple question saying, are you good? Gimeno Ayana, are you good? And then Nimeno Aya is, yes, I'm good. So we'll just go one more time through. Ready? Machatara. Ani Bojo. Minogi Jagat. Gimeno Ayana. Nimeno Aya. So when I was about 56, I got a new job at the Kingston Community Health Center. I was a nurse practitioner there, and I was super lucky. I got to work with a guy named David Jock, who's a Mohawk man from Akwesasne in Napanee. We were forming an Indigenous health program. It was awesome. And David said to me, hey, do you know how to say hello or goodbye in your language? I said, no. He said, it's Bama-Pi. I said, Bama-Pi? Is that how you say see ya? He said, that's how you say, you don't ever say goodbye. You say see you later. It's Bama-Pi. I said, really? And then when I'd wait to see him the next time, I'd get myself all rehearsing, and I might say, Pi mama. No, that's not it. Mama, B. No, that's not it. Bama-Pi. So I was not a language learner. I didn't think of myself as a language learner. I hadn't really learned French, although I was given lots of exposure through the grade school. So to decide I'm going to learn my language was kind of audacious, really. I mean, really, But I decided that's what I wanted to do. Partly inspired by the little boy you may have noticed with me, little Danyan there. He was born in 2011, and that's kind of when I thought, okay, that's it. I'm committing in. So then I started to try and learn my language, and I did that with others in the community. There are other people in the community who also wanted to learn the languages. So we met around kitchen tables and started to talk about that. So I just needed to really kind of set the stage in that way. I also want to mention that 2 of the songs you heard, interestingly enough, despite everything I've just told you, came from here. Isn't that crazy? Strong Woman's Song comes from here. It was given to the women at P4W. That song had a huge impact on our community in terms of cultural identity, cultural spacing, creating that, It was a real gift. It was a gift to the women in P4W, and they gave it to us. It was just pretty amazing. The other song you heard, Wildflower, was actually given to us by a grandmother named Barbara Hooper. And that song is about, basically communities taking care of children. So it's interesting, although I say to you, in a way, it's a kind of a very, I don't want to say, it's just, it needs a lot of nurturing culture and language. In fact, those 2 songs came from here. Isn't that crazy? So I'm so happy that you guys sang those. I feel like it's almost like on purpose. You're like, it was meant to be. I know you should say it wasn't on purpose, but it was kind of like perfect. Okay, so I just wanted to say, okay, of all of you here, I would like you to, if you don't mind, if you can hold up your hands, if you could those of you who feel like you are Kingstonians, that you have lived here or that you live in the vicinity and you feel like you know Kingston, you maybe call yourself a Kingstonian, could you put your hands up, please? Up high so I can really see them. Okay. So of those of you who have no, keep them up. So those of you who have lived here 1 year or less, just put your hand down. Those of you who have lived here 5 years or less, hands down. Those of you who have lived here 10 years or less, hands down. Okay, look at you, all hardcore Kingstonians here. Okay. So now you can put your hands down now. Thank you for indulging me there. So let's just imagine, let's have a thought experiment. Somebody comes to you, Anishinaabe, like me, and I say, I've just come here, I just moved here. And I say to you, is there a Native community here? What would you say to them? You don't have to answer me or anything, but just in your heart, it's like, what could you tell them? Say like, I've got a grandchild, and I would really like him to be able to connect with the community. Where can I bring him? I have a parent who is really struggling. My daughter is really struggling with COVID isolation. What can I do? We've rolled into town, and I cannot find a house to live in. Everything's so expensive here. What do I do? Who do I connect with? I don't have our status cards yet. Who can help me? These are not uncommon experiences for people who've just come to the community. And oftentimes in the institutional face of Kingston, the helping services, it's kind of a little bit of a black box. It's getting better, for sure, but it is a little bit of a black box. If you were to try to find the Indigenous community, it's complicated. There are about, according to census, and opinion amongst people who kind of know in the community, there's about 7,000 people in the area who have Indigenous ancestry. It's complex, though, because the ancestry there's multiple ancestries, so it could be many, many different nations. Could be mixed ancestry as well. Could be people who have no contact with where their home reserves are or where their home communities might be. It could be people that they themselves don't feel particularly connected, and so all of a sudden it gets a little bit kind of complicated even to self-identify, because you think, like, me? Am I enough? Right? That's not an uncommon experience. It's very common. So then you start thinking about, so it's culturally complex, multiple cultures, linguistically complex, lots of different languages with language loss. Right? So it's a complex community. I should mention as well that within the region there are some status communities, so communities that have a relationship to the Indian Act. So Tyendinaga First Nation is a First Nation community. There's Curve Lake near Peterborough, and Alderville First Nation, which is the beautiful, contributor to this garden near Rice Lake. There's some unceded, or there are some non-status communities. Ardok First Nation is a non-status community. Abajawan is I believe a non-status community, but is engaged in a land claim at this point. So regionally, it's complicated, and it's not homogenous. It's complex. I think that Bhavana has made reference to some of the things that about the Indigenous population that might be known in the area. So, for example, T.B. Moser reports about 30% of people who are homeless report Indigenous ancestry. There is a survey that was done at Street Health a few years back about hepatitis C, and at that point, Kingston Community Health Centre thought that they knew their Indigenous population, and then they learned through the survey process that in fact there were far more people who reported Indigenous ancestry who were living with hep C, for example. So there are those kinds of pieces of information that might be able to be gleaned about the community, but it's really hard because there's not actually a good, a statistical database about what's happening with our community. So sometimes what will happen is that there'll be extrapolations from other regional or other urban experiences where there's more kind of information, and that will be extrapolated. There have been some needs assessments done, though, of this community. There's been at least 4 of them that I know of. And one of them being through Ardok First Nation, they carried out a needs assessment and did actual focus interviews and circles in our community. And that was done about 3 years ago. It's called Lift Our Voices. And there is another needs assessment that was done by the Wellesley Institute in Toronto, looking at what happens to children educationally from preschool right through to, I think, graduation at high school. And that was done about, probably 4 years ago. And there have been at least 2 other kinds of needs assessments of that nature. Now, do the researchers all talk to one another? Maybe not. There was recently a study that was carried out by Eva Perky and Iman Bayumi here in Kingston in partnership with the Indigenous Health Council in Kingston that looked at the impact of COVID on our community. And you would probably not be surprised to understand the impact of social distancing on the community in terms of mental health, reported stress, access to food, and for sure, access to nature and access to ceremony and cultural gatherings, having a huge impact on people. So I just wanted to kind of lay out some of the complexity. There is the community, there's kind of a thin infrastructure, I'd say. So if you go to the phone book and find Indigenous services, you'll see MNO, the Métis Nation of Ontario, that do some great programming. You'll see TP Moza. You might start to see at a program level, there are some specific programs. For example, the Kingston Community House Centre has an Indigenous community development worker named Kate Brandt. The Kingston Individual House has a role that's for an Indigenous worker. So there will be mainstream programs will have a worker who's meant to reach out to the client population and to create cultural safety in the service. Those roles are complicated as well because those individuals are often kind of thought to also leverage change in the organization as a whole. So imagine the complexity of that work. Managing a cultural shift in the organization and making a difference at a frontline level, right? So those people are really, you'll find that they're super busy. They go to lots of meetings. There's lots of education that they're doing in their day-to-day work all the time. And you'll find that it's really hard to schedule meetings. And it might take several phone calls to connect, but it's because of the nature of the work. It's really, really complicated and complex. So that's the infrastructure. Now I want to talk to you about two things. I want to talk to you about, I'm going to get emotional here, about a strength our community has. It's really an awesome strength. It kind of floors me. And I see it at play all the time, and it's like, oh my gosh, it still floors me. It's the extent of volunteerism in our community. It is amazing. You would not believe what happens through volunteerism. People are doing things all the time, not for pay, and they're doing it because they are trying to create community and they're trying to create a cultural space for one another, no matter which direction you come from. And so I'm going to give you an example of that just to exemplify it. In the month of May, this is during COVID, in the month of May. Kamloops happened. Within 24 hours, Facebook Messenger blew up. One of the women who lives here, who has all kinds of other responsibilities, says, we have to have a sunrise ceremony. We need to do something to recognize what's happening here. Within 24 hours, down at City Hall, there were 215 little pairs of shoes and more. There had been a sunrise ceremony organized. There had been a sacred fire organized. This happened not because there's a telephone tree or there's a messenger is what we got. So Messenger did that. All these women in Messenger started to connect. And then all of a sudden, it was not just for one day. It was across from City Hall, across from the place that these decisions were made a long time ago. That's where they decided to put that fire. That's where they decided to have those shoes. And then people gathered cedar and put cedar around the shoes, protect the shoes, because it's a protective medicine. That fire continued, and it continued for 4 days. Then there was a realization that there was going to be more. So then the people decided, oh no, we'll keep the fire going. We'll keep it going for 215 hours, each hour for each child that was at that point identified. By the time those 10 days were finished, now remember, this is a 24-hour fire. At the beginning of that period, there was not even a telephone tree. So there was wood, and there was food, and there were firekeepers, and there were people, and there were singers, and there were ceremonialists who all came to make this happen. So 10 days of fire happened, all like that. That is the nature of the volunteerism in this community. It's very heart-led. It's very driven by the connection and relationships. And this this sort of form of volunteerism gets a lot of work done, let me tell you. And it's kind of like humbling. So at the same time all that was happening, there was a movement around a statue at the very same time. At the very same time. So people made a decision to do an encampment in the very same way. All through Messenger, all through like social media organizing. And again, there was a sacred fire there too. And again, there would need to be wood organized and food organized and people organized. And then also thinking through how to handle this, because it was challenging. It was challenging. This was all happening through volunteerism. That's in the month of May, during COVID. So, it's a good place to segue into my next piece I want to share with you, which is about language. So we know that it was the words of Sir John and others, the policy of that government that set us off in the directions of residential school and suppression, cultural and language suppression. And we live with the effects of it today. It's still ongoing. Today, it would be very hard for me to ensure that my grandchild was educated in the language of his birthright. I cannot make that happen. I cannot make that happen here. I cannot make that happen in many spaces in Canada. It is the rare space where there is an immersion school for children to learn their birth language, their birthright. I can't make that happen. When I was a little girl, I would go with my grandma around Batchewana. We'd go visiting with my mom and my grandma, and I'd hear my grandmother speaking to the other older people, and I wouldn't understand what they were saying at all. Didn't have a clue. She was speaking Ojibwe. They were visiting. I had that lived experience, and I also truly believed, as a child, the language was dead. How is that possible? How does that function? It's because language loss and cultural suppression is naturalized and normalized in our day-to-day life. It's all made to seem quite normal. So it's kind of odd. This 56-year-old would want to learn Ojibwe. So we're going against the stream, but that's what we have to do. And we need to do that now. We need to do it hard now, because we could lose our languages. And I don't mean like the knowledge of the language. I mean the actual daily use of the language. And why is that important? So I'm going to tell you why it's important to me. There is one word I'm going to give you. It's called inwe. Inwe is the verb in Ojibwe. Now, interesting with Ojibwe, everything is alive. Everything's alive. So we might consider a stone in the Western thought paradigm as being inanimate. Not in Ojibwe. It's alive. And that stone has spirit. And in a sweat lodge, it becomes a grandfather. Like, it's big. So the language holds the worldview. So when I learn the language, I'm learning all about animacy, what's alive. Now, is there gender in my language? No. If I say bimipto, I'm saying, as a second language learner, I'm translating in my head saying, he or she runs, because there is no gender. But you know what? That's the artifact of English in my head. It's actually, there's no gender. There's no gender. Try to get your head wrapped around that. No gender. So everything's alive. No gender. There are gender roles, but there's no gender. I'm not going to be saying he or she. Are you a he? Are you a she? It's not like that. So the word I want to give you is inwe. Inwe means a sound, your sound. And it's interesting. It can mean like a dialect of Anishinaabe-Moan, or it could mean like Ganyageha, the Mohawk language, or it could mean Cree language, it could mean English. Inwe is your sound. you know who else's sound it is? It's the birds. If that motor wasn't running, you could hear the crickets, their sounds. Now, think about that in terms of learning language in this urban environment. The way we would say this in Anishinaabemowin is gitawe non gitanewa nonik, all of our sounds. So this whole concept of interrelationship, of being related, is in the language. When I say that, gitane gitanawe wa nonik, gitanawe wa nonik, that means not just my sound. It means the cricket sound. It means your sound. And what it really does, I think, is a concept that's big enough and sturdy enough and imaginative and bursting with passion. All sounds matter. So my sound is not more important than the cricket sound. My sound's not less important than yours. All of our sounds are super important to creation, to the sustaining of life. And so it invites us, our language invites us into a different relationship with the land. It's very, very fundamental. So when we're talking about learning language, do I really want it just in a classroom? No. So what we're doing at the Language Nest, and what we've been doing for 3 years, well, I should say the Language Nest is a bunch of volunteers who are like Carol Ann and others who care about language, right? We've tried different iterations of learning the language together. So we're trying to learn, potentially create space for many languages. So we do this in the last few years by going on the land. And shock of shock, when we decided to do that, I had no idea that there would be land fees. So it cost more money. We didn't even think about that, right? So the Indigenous Food Sovereignty Garden that Ray referenced on Highway 15 is land that's owned by the United Church, which will be repatriated to the Indigenous community here in Kingston. We have created an Indigenous Food Sovereignty Garden there, and that's the space where there's been lots of language learning and where we hope we'll be doing more language learning. We also will, as a Language Nest, we have been fortunate enough to be granted through the TD fund enough money, and also Kojiko actually, enough money to plant 900 trees, and we're doing that after October 18th. Every one of those trees are from this land. They're indigenous to this territory. There are 49 different species. Can you imagine? So it's really, those are the kinds of projects that we take on as a Language Nest, and we bring language to that through beginning to understand the names of those trees, by understanding the diversity, by doing ceremony in the process of planting. So we will continue to meet on the land. And one of the programs that we were funded through the United Way, and we're really grateful for this because we see it as a bit of a pilot project, is that we are creating on the land, gathering all our relatives literacy camp. And this is for like kids, families with young children, with the hopes of trying to both welcome them back onto the land, into nature, to break down the social isolation that has been like crystallizing on us with the COVID social distancing. We are going to be engaging on the land in lots of playful ways, but also like building in tiny ceremony that you do every day, like a little, smudging is like a little ceremony that could happen with families very easily. Our tobacco, our messenger medicine, so families would go with their children and put down their tobacco that day, and then we'll be talking, we'll be doing storytelling, and lots of play. So that's what we're doing on the land, and we're going to be doing our first one this Thursday, and we're going from this Thursday right to the end of November. We'll be having a fire keeper with us when it starts to get a little bit colder, so there'll be fire there. What do we expect to have happen? Well, we really, really, really hope that families that have had a hugely difficult time breaking through the barrier to get out will be able to get out. They'll be able to connect and congregate on the land in a socially distanced, safe way with young children, connecting with nature, connecting with food. connecting with language in small ways, and connecting with storytelling. We'll be having the library come out and join us. They're going to be bringing beautiful books aimed at children that age to help promote literacy. And every family will have a hotspot linked to their library card that they can use to have internet access, maybe for the first time, that's stable. So that's my meandering story related to my community, our community. Thank you so much for listening and being tolerant of my long-windedness. Miigwech Bizendawyek. Thank you all for listening. I hope.
Thank you, Maureen. That was really wonderful. I could have heard you, listened to you all evening. That really was special, and I learned a lot. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your learnings with us. Much appreciated. Our last speaker, we have with us, so, you talked about statistics and numbers, and one of the things we know is that Elizabeth Fry has a really large number of people that they serve who are Indigenous. 65% or thereabouts of people that are women that are served by Elizabeth Fry identify as Indigenous or have Indigenous ancestry. And so with us today, we're very delighted to have Catherine Laundrie, who's the Executive Director, and Judy Burrill, who runs a number of programs at Elizabeth Fry. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to come up, and then you decide who wants to go first.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and this is Judy. Together we've been at Elizabeth Fry for a good number of years. In fact, I was happy to see Cherry in the audience here. She was on the board of directors when I was first hired 37 years ago. So thanks for hiring me, Cherry. That was really great. So we have a number of programs at Elizabeth Fry. One of them is our community residential facility, and that's our halfway house. And that is where we get the majority of the Indigenous clients through there. The statistic from our national office is that 4% of women in Canada are Indigenous, and 42% of women in prison are Indigenous. So it's a very overrepresentation of women in the federal system, federal and provincial system. So Judy's going to talk about, we also have the Women Empowered Hub, which is funded through the United Way, and a lot of the program that we have in there is Indigenous, and we have clients who have been through our programs before, and they come back and they do some teachings in the hub, and we've made drums as well. That was pretty interesting because they did bring the deer hide in and then had to clean it. It's pretty traumatizing for Judy because it was really, really smelly on the property that day. So it was a good process. They wanted to do right from the beginning, so they did that. So they made drums. They've also made drumsticks workshops. We have sharing circles. We have drumming. Ribbon skirt making. We've done the justice dolls. We've done the red felt doll pins for the murdered and missing Indigenous women. It's just a constant change, and we basically leave it up to the women who are running the groups what they want to offer in the group at the time. And we have a calendar that we send out to all of our clients so that they can decide which programs they want to come to. So, Judy, you want to tell us something about?
I can just share a little bit because most of my experience at EFRI has been in the prison, starting with P4W. And then when P4W was closed, an interesting fact to tell you that when Prison for Women closed, there were 100 women in Prison for Women. And the CSC decided to open 5 more prisons across Canada so that women could be closer to their families. Well, if you're Inuit, there's no place that you're going to go that's going to make you closer to your family. But the interesting part of that is that every one of those prisons have 100 or more women in it. So if we build prisons, we will fill them. That's sort of the concept of that. And so, especially for Indigenous women, oftentimes they're separated from their home communities. And I wrote down something I want to share with you because prisons are not treatment centers. They're not healing centers. And they're not a place to learn about your culture and spirituality. people need to come to their community, and they need to learn from their elders and their community, and sharing that. And at EFRI, that the number of, well, it was 65% we said were the women, the numbers that we work with. But that community of women, those Indigenous women who are First Nations, they're Métis, many of them are mixed too, right? And come to learn. They don't necessarily know what to bring, but they come to learn. Is that they have taught each other, and what we hope to do is in the We Hub, I call it a soft place to fall. Is that you can come there, you can smudge, we can drum, we can give you a shell and sage if you don't have it. We will share. We cook bannock as well. Everything's, food is great, right? But again, when we reference COVID, a lot of that connection was cut off. And one of the things that I did during the last part of COVID was I did what was called care calls. I would call women every single day and say, how are you? What do you need? Some people would say, oh, I need some tobacco, or I need some sage. Or some people would say, could you go pick my groceries up at the food bank? Or, could you give me coloring pages? Do you have any books that I could read? And so now, women are calling and saying, can we come? Can we sit and come? And I think that that's the important part of the We Hub. We also have a community garden. So not as many people use the garden, but this year, because there were less women around. But the women that were there, we've cooked up everything in our garden. We made the last bottle of salsa last week using the things that were in our garden. So I find that it's difficult to make the connections, because I'm glad Maureen talked about that. Like, where do these women go? How do you make the connections? When I go to prison, those women are from across Canada. They're not necessarily from the Kingston area. I can, through osmosis now, sort of say, you can go here and we can do this and I'll take you. And one of the joys of my job is I can take someone to places and introduce them, not just say, go down around the corner or get the bus and do whatever. But I think there's a total disconnect. So when Maureen said there's 7,000, I was surprised with that number, which says to me, we need to reach out more, we need to do more, and have this a very safe place for women to come. So Catherine's going to talk to you about our teepee. So we're very excited to talk about our teepee. So she's going to talk to you about that.
Excited.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably 3 years ago we put a proposal into Correctional Services Canada because we recognized that there weren't enough services for Indigenous women in the institutions, and especially when they came out into the community, it was very limited for them as well. So we put in a proposal to put a teepee in our backyard. We have 3 buildings that are side by side, so our backyard is quite large. So they were more than willing to help us out with that. So we purchased a 22-foot teepee. It was made by the Native Brotherhood in Drumheller Institution, and we had it sent down here. And then COVID hit, so we weren't able to put it up, and we weren't able to have the opening ceremony, and it was sitting in our We Hub for the last 2 years. Now, thankfully, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, we were able to raise the teepee, and it was, I'm not Indigenous, but it was a very emotional experience for me to watch this go up. And we had an elder come and help us, and a bunch of volunteers that he led to put this up, and it's sitting there waiting to be blessed and opened, and the ceremony is going to be on September 30th, and it's a limited group. It's by invite only because of the COVID conditions and the restrictions, but we're super thrilled to be able to offer this to the women in the community and the women in our halfway house. So they will basically take it over and run their own programs, I believe, and their ceremonies, and we hope to open it up to others in the community as well so that they can use it. We've also been approached by a couple. We have to figure out how that's going to work, but it is a stunning teepee in our backyard, and I look at it every day and I just get really warm inside. It's just really nice to have.
And it's going to be a perfect place for language, Maureen.
Yeah.
It'll be a perfect setting for language. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you.
So thank you very much for having us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jane Lapointe. I am co-chair, volunteer co-chair, along with Jessica Bain Hogan of Women United. It happens to me every time. It's just, I always get emotional. So I am the only thing standing between you and question and answer this evening. Probably a little bit more food and drink. So just before we do that, I number one want to thank each of our speakers this evening for joining us. Maureen, I think that Ray has probably already left, but Laura and Logan and Jada for sharing your drum and your music with us, and Catherine and Judy for sharing the work that you're doing at Elizabeth Fry. There's an important announcement that I'm happy to be able to share because it feels like such a gift that we are here this evening, and we've heard about how generous our community is with our time. And I always think that, you know, there's an expression that says if you want to see what you value, that you should look at your bank statement and your calendar, and that shows where you're sort of spending your time and your money. And this group has always come together so openly because we do want to learn about what's happening in our community and be a part of that. And so thank you for everybody speaking tonight for coming with such generosity and openness, and we really appreciate and value that. So everybody that is involved with Women United is giving at the leadership level with the United Way. And in the past, Jessica has quite generously, she gives not just all of her time as a volunteer, but she has also done a matching program for new leaders or any leader that increases their donation by 10%. This year, Jessica has shifted that program. We have had another very generous couple that are partners with the United Way that have come forward. They wish to remain anonymous, but they're going to continue that leadership program. So any new leader, or if you're an existing leader and you're increasing your donation by 10%, there will be a financial match through that program. And then where it gets even better is Jessica is for Women United agreeing to match any new Women United. So I always say part of what we do here is we come and we learn and we get to see each other and meet. It feels like such a gift this beautiful day when I think back to when we were planning about can we actually do this in person. We've been able to, so that's wonderful. But the other part of what we do is we take what we have learned and we go back into the community and we talk to our friends and our neighbors and our co-workers about what we've learned here, and part of that is spreading the word. So the bonus tonight is if you go and you're speaking to your other women friends, that there's an opportunity for them to join, and they kind of get a triple match with a donation this year, which is pretty incredible. So that's all I wanted to say. Are we going to try and do a few minutes of question and answers? And then, so to any of the speakers, and Maureen will then come just before we close to do a closing for us. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Jane, and thanks again, Jessica, for your generosity. It's very impressive, and thank you to our anonymous couple who are still doing the challenge grant. And so we have, as Jane said, you can triple your gift if you're a woman leader this year. So yeah, it is incredible. So I don't know. I know this is a little awkward for questions, but does anyone have a question? And what we've got a second mic here, so you can speak into that. Are there any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to share? If you're not comfortable coming up to the mic, then Kim can try to repeat your question. Anything? Anyone want to say anything? No? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Nancy's thanking everyone. In a short period of time, we've learned so much. You can only imagine what we would do if we had a longer period of time. And Jane, you're not the only crier. All good. Anyone else? Any comments? Any thoughts? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just wrap up. And Kim, are you coming up to invite Maureen? Jane is. Okay.
Maureen, we'd like to invite you on behalf of Women United just to say some closing remarks for us and to thank you for being such an important part of this event this evening. I'll just place these here beside for you.
Oh, sure, wow. Wow. Oh boy.
You made the
Miigwech,
event very, very special
Oh,
for us.
thank
so
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, miigwech. Gee, I think I'm so I've been taken by surprise a little bit, eh? Thank you so much, miigwech. In terms of closing, I think that what we try to do is when we're bringing a circle to close, so we're just thinking about everybody getting home safely. Really, that's really what it is. Thank you so much, everybody, for your kindness and your listening. I really appreciate that, that you've created this space for this conversation. Thanks so much, Miigwech. So, with that said, I'm going to just wish us all a safe journey home to whoever is waiting for us, whether it's our kiddies or our partners or our kids, our grandkids, our neighbors, our community. Miigwech, miigwech Bizendaliak. Thank you so much for listening to all of us. Miigwech. Aho. Thank you. It's beautiful. Beautiful.